Can we talk about psychic TikTok? It's not bad, but it's... Welcome back. Hey, if you are new here, my name is Lauren. I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I'm an animal communicator. I also am a psychic coach. So here on my channel, I teach people how to be psychic. And part of that is me making sure that psychics are doing things ethically and they're doing it correctly. Not correctly as much as ethically, so that, you know, when people look at psychics, they're not just like, oh, hey, they're another fraud, they're another scammer. This is somebody who is serious, who's professional, who knows what they're doing, and they treat others with dignity and respect. And really, this video is about ethics. It's not so much about psychic TikTok. It's that psychic TikTok is a great example for me to talk about ethics. So if you are studying, if you are trying to become a psychic yourself, this is still a great video because you are going to learn about all the important ethics we should be using when we are out there doing readings for other people. So this video was actually inspired by Simply Witched. She did a similar video where she kind of broke down witch talk, which is kind of the witchcraft community on TikTok, and how there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I loved it. I so enjoyed hearing her perspective. And it kind of inspired this video because I had a lot of the same feelings, but different things going on with psychic TikTok. And really, again, this isn't just psychic TikTok. This is kind of all platforms, especially anytime there's a new platform coming out. That's when people take advantage of it, and those scammers kind of come in, figure out a way to get people while there aren't a whole lot of rules or like regulations. I will say, like, this happened with Periscope when I first joined Periscope. Is Periscope even around anymore? I'm sure Instagram was this exact same way. Same with Facebook before, you know, the majority of the voices became a little bit better, and, you know, more of the people that are doing it the right way started speaking up so that anyone on that platform understood, oh, okay, this is the correct way of how it should be handled. That's not correct. That must be a scammer or like somebody who's not actually, you know, in that industry. But why TikTok is bad is because of its ways that you can stay anonymous. So for example, you don't have to put any links outward to any stuff. So somebody could just upload a picture and not put any like website, Instagram, anything associated with it, and they can just solely just kind of make this account, and no one would know that they're there. And no one would know, hey, maybe I can go look and see, hey, what are their credentials? How long have they been doing readings? You know, or just if you want to know anything about them, you don't have to put any of that stuff. And it's very hard to like link them back to any real account because that's how TikTok is made. It's so that you can be more anonymous. Another example is the live streaming capabilities through TikTok. You can basically start a live stream, and as soon as you're done with it, it's gone. It's disappeared. It doesn't exist. So anything you did on that live stream is erased. So if you were like being mean to somebody, if you took advantage of somebody, if someone said, hey, you took my money and didn't give me a reading, there's no proof. You can't. So it's a very easy place for scammers to exist. Now, I do think a large chunk of these people are not actually psychics. Obviously, yes, everyone has psychic abilities, but I don't think that they are doing it because they are like trying to grow their practice or become a psychic. I think they are doing it to get people's money. They are scammers. Now, again, not everyone on psychic TikTok is a scammer. I follow several people that I love that are psychics, that do it totally ethically. I love those people. I want those people to speak up more on this, but what I'm talking about here are the scammers, the people who clearly have not ever studied psychic ability, don't care to, don't want to, and are just there to make some money. So let's talk about what's actually happening on psychic TikTok. Now, I thought about putting up videos or photos, but I don't want to call anyone out specifically, especially if I could be like wrong. So I'm just kind of talking about it in a general sense and what I have personally seen. Where do I even start? I'm just going to go down a list of some of the things that I've seen. I have seen just people giving out readings for money, but again, it was like, are they actually psychic? There was nothing there that I could go check to see if they were legit. And these people were charging way more than I ever charge on some of my live nights. Not saying that like I'm the end all be all of price points. I'm so afraid I'm going to get in trouble. I've seen a person who sits and tells people who they're going to marry. And literally people send in money and they just sit there and they just shout out random ass names like Susie, Bobby, Billy, and this person is looking at a screen. So I kind of wonder if he's just reading out of a name book. You know what I mean? Like, people are sending him money and he's just sitting here shouting out names for money. Like, I do not think that there's anything psychic about this. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm also using my intuition. Hey, is this person using their intuition? And I kind of get a no. And you can kind of feel that with other intuitive people. I've also seen a young teenager who decided very clearly, because I've only seen this person once, I've never seen them again, who decided to pull out their Scrabble game board from their home and say, hey, who are you gonna marry? Their name starts with, and he pulls out a Scrabble character. It can work, not saying that what he's doing is incorrect. But the fact that they're taking money, taking advantage of people, and they're doing things that are very simple that I don't think they're actually using their psychic abilities for. Now, I would also say there are some psychics on here that are real psychics, but they're not using their actual intuition. They're using tools. I find a lot more of psychic TikTokers are using tools instead of their actual abilities. And that's totally fine, because some psychics you go to for that reason. But it just seems to be, to me, it's a sign of inexperience. It's a sign of people who don't actually know how to use their abilities, so they're using a tool instead. So I see a lot of yes or no question videos where people are just literally throwing a dice, flipping a coin, and charging people for it. And I'm kind of like, why don't you just flip a coin yourself if that's what you want? I have also seen magnetic pendulums being used. People are paying money for someone to pull a magnetic pendulum and let it go. Like, again, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just the fact that these people aren't actually using their abilities. Like, if you're gonna pay a psychic, you should be paying them to use their psychic abilities. Otherwise, go get that tool for yourself. You know what I mean? Overall, to me, when I see a lot of tools being used, when I see a lot of basic tools being used, a lot of yes or no question tools being used, that to me is a red flag, because these people don't know probably how to use, again, their intuition over that tool. Yes and no questions also, and how they address them. You know, yes and no questions is a very, like, not the best way to ask questions. And I feel like most psychics know this, but the fact that I'm seeing a lot of a yes or no, or what is your future, constantly focusing on the future, it kind of shows that they don't know. They haven't been exposed to other psychics, and where, you know, the collective message is, hey, focus on the present. And if you are going to give future advice, make sure that they know that the future can change. And you don't give commands and stuff like this. I'm getting ahead of myself. I've also seen other psychics not show their face at all. And that's, again, not an issue, because there's a lot of people that are probably really great at what they do, and they just don't want to show their face. But it kind of makes for a seedy environment when you come across 5 or 6 of these in a row. You know what I'm saying? I've also seen psychics on TikTok talk about readings that they have, but never actually give any out, which they don't have to, but they're talking about all of these experiences and how they blew somebody's mind and how they just had this perfect thing that's accurate. And it kind of makes me wonder, did that actually happen? You know, I can't actually go look at their website. I can't book a reading with them. All they do is sit here and talk about how psychic they are, and they go and they get people donating to them. And again, a lot of psychics understand that, you know, you're not supposed to usually talk in detail about a reading that you had with somebody who had a client. So I feel like either you're a very unethical psychic, or 2, you didn't actually do those readings. I've also seen a lot of, I don't want to gender it, but on both ends, of people sexualizing their readings. Like, they will show up half naked, and I'm kind of like, are you keeping people around and donating because you're naked, or because, not naked, but like, you know, swimsuits or something, or because you actually want to give them readings? And again, I'm not shaming anyone on like what they want to wear, but you know, when you start to see it several times in a row, everyone is doing it, and you're intuitively feeling like, I think that they're doing this for the money or the views. I don't actually feel like they're doing it to grow their psychic business or, you know, help other people. You start to put the pieces together and realize, okay, this is a platform issue. This is an issue that seems to be stemming from the fact that that platform doesn't have the right voices yet. And so the scammers, the uneducated, the inexperienced people are kind of taking advantage. So I feel like there's like so many more stories that I could go into of people that I've seen, but I'm gonna leave it there. If you are on TikTok, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's not just like random, it's almost every person that you come across. And when you do find a good one, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to follow them, tell the algorithm yes to this person, no to everybody else. But I wanna get into the red flags that you should be watching out for. So if you're kind of like, yeah, I feel like this, or okay, Lauren, like, how do I know if these people are scammers or not? How do I know? And even if they're not scammers, how do I know if they're a little bit less experienced, or maybe they haven't been exposed to how to be ethical or really understand how their psychic ability works? I'm going to give you some tips right now. And these are kind of just the basic ethics that all psychics should know. And I think people receiving readings, they should also know this as well, because then they can look out for those bad eggs. The first thing that is a red flag is when psychics try to convince you that they are right all the time, or that they know like exactly how everything works. Like, this is how it works, this is how the afterlife works, I am absolutely right. I went to I'm not even gonna call her a psychic, I went to a friend's house once, and there was a mutual acquaintance there, and I use this story all the time, but I never name names. And this person decided that she was going to read for my other friend that was there, and she was just like, I am never wrong. I am always right on my psychic readings. Everyone tells me I'm always right. So when I pull these cards, I know this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And I remember sitting there and I was like, ooh, such good fodder for my channel. This is exactly what you shouldn't be doing. And I remember to pull my friend aside afterwards and be like, all right, let me tell you why that was wrong. Psychics can be wrong. I've made a whole video on it and why they can be wrong. But psychics, any psychic that says that they're right all the time does not understand how the psychic ability works. Psychics should be giving you suggestions. They should not be telling you that you have to do anything. They shouldn't be attached to the information. They shouldn't be calling you up the next day like, hey, did you do that? Ethical psychics release that reading afterwards. They're done with it, and it shouldn't bother them whether or not you listened or not. Really, they should be giving you suggestions and saying like, hey, you can do whatever you want. This is what I feel. But I always say, take my advice like you would a friend's. Don't put any more importance on my advice than you would somebody else. Now, obviously, some people go ahead and do that because they feel like they really resonate with a reading, but the important thing here is to not ever say that you are 100% right, that you can never be wrong. You know, we want to steer away from that because that's false. It's just not true. And like, I will 100% stand by that everyone can be wrong, and you know, we're human just like anybody else. But I am never wrong, and this is what you got to do, and you have to do it. Definitely red flags. Now, another red flag is when psychics get into counseling more than they do providing intuitive information. And this is a gray line because there are a lot of psychics out there that I study psychology, and I think they blend the two in such beautiful ways. But what I mean by this is that they are using their left brain, their analytical mind, to counsel, to give you advice, Lauren advice, versus to ask your guides for advice, ask the person that you're talking to, you know, spirit, for advice. And if they start to get more into the zone of like, oh, well, I just got this one little hit and I am going to take it and I'm going to use my normal Lauren advice instead of going back to the psychic source, and saying, okay, hey, so what should they do about this? Because I might have opinions, yeah, on how they should handle it, but that's not for me to say. You know, that's not why they're coming to me. If they wanted that, they'll go to a counselor. What they are coming to me for is psychic information. And so if I'm counseling, if I'm coming more from that left brain, I'm not actually giving them what, in my opinion, is what they signed up for. Another red flag that is, all of these have a gray area, but another one is when psychics ask too many questions. And I say it's a gray area because it's hard. It's hard as a psychic not to ask questions. We really need to make statements and be like, this is what I'm seeing. But if somebody is constantly just asking for information and they're not providing you any new information, they're just kind of fishing is what we call it, then they're probably not using their intuitive ability as much. Again, again, this could be wrong. This could be a sign of a not confident person, somebody who's not confident in their intuition. And so I don't want to like discredit those people, because I used to be like that when I was first starting. Like, I would ask more questions because I wasn't sure if I was right, and I was more concerned about being right than just saying what I was getting. And that's kind of a hurdle you have to overcome as a psychic. But if it's like repetitive question asking to the point where you're like, all right, everything that they said was something based off of the answer that I provided, then yeah, you might be getting into some weird territory there. Now, another red flag that, again, is not always a red flag, is people that are very heavily focused on the future. So they're only giving out future readings, like what's going to happen to you, what's not going to happen to you. Again, this isn't a problem. It's more that when they give these readings, they're not explaining how future readings can work, how they are reading the energy at this time, and that it can change and that you can change your future. When they're giving out these future readings, they're wanting to talk about something that could happen to satisfy people. It's more about the intention behind it, and are they preying on people who desperately want to know something about the future? And although obviously I do read things into the future, I make sure to preface it with all of these things of like future can change, you know, all of this. And I personally try to focus more on the present. What can you do now to attract that future? And I find that a lot of other ethical psychics do that same thing. Almost every good psychic that I know focuses on, hey, what can we do now to attract that? What can you change in your life right now to get that thing that you want? Not just, yeah, you're gonna get it, or no, you're not gonna get it. The same goes for yes or no questions. With yes or no questions, I always say, there's room for more. So it could have been a yes but or a no but. And so when you're just talking about black and white, yes and no, I don't feel like any message hardly ever comes through with just like yes, no. You know, usually it's like a yes, but remember to keep this in mind, or no, don't do that, but you could get there if you wanted to. And so I find that if you're doing yes or no questions, you're kind of discouraging people from asking deeper things, maybe because you're afraid and you don't trust your psychic ability to go deeper than just yes or no questions. So both telling the future and yes and no questions, I don't want to say they're easy, but the intention behind them is I'm not going to go very far with my psychic ability. I'm just going to give people quick satisfaction. And that's totally fine, especially if you're practicing this, if you're doing speed readings, like, yeah, that would work perfectly. But again, it's not the thing itself that I'm talking about, it's the intention behind it. Other big red flags that you will see on all platforms, anywhere, is psychics that use buzzwords. And buzzwords can be subjective. I have some that I feel like are pretty buzzy, but I've seen people use them in a very good way, in a good context. They're educated about it, they're teaching people about it, but I've also used those same buzzwords used in a bad way. So like twin flames is one of those, soulmates, soul contracts, starseed. Again, there's not anything wrong with those. I think there is a good interpretation of each, but when people who don't understand what they are talk about them, the collective gets an idea of what they are, and it's usually misinformed. And so when people are asking me, who's my twin flame, I usually ask them, well, what do you think a twin flame is, to make sure that I'm on the same page as them. And sometimes they actually do know a good version of it, and they've been educated and they've read about it. Sometimes they just think it's, oh, my perfect other half that's going to be with me in this life like that, and I don't have to do anything. Like, that's not correct, but it kind of is just misinformed again. And more so what I mean about this is like, what is that person on TikTok, on YouTube, like what type of readings are they putting out? Are they constantly putting out videos focused on when your ex is gonna call you back? You know, that kind of says something about the reader. Like the people that are constantly focused on reading other people, reading celebrities without their permission. Like, yes, exes calling you back might be a really good, helpful thing. If it's every single video that you are making or every single reading that you are offering, like I wonder what the intention is behind it. Are you doing it because it brings in a lot of desperate people who are more willing to give up that money? Yes. Or are you doing it because you're actually trying to help people? Again, gray line, I think there are people out there that will do both. And if I'm calling you out on any of these, do not get offended. You will know if you are doing this correctly or not. Another big red flag for psychics is if they are asking you to donate more to get more information, or asking you to come back or get a further reading with them, or else they won't give you that information. Now again, great line, because sometimes I'm doing a very quick reading on my live nights and I feel like we could go further with it. And you know, I don't want to cut it off and just be like, oh, it's clear, cut and dry. I'd like to be like, I'm not giving you the full story here, and I just want you to know that. You don't have to get it from me. Usually I say, hey, go pull some cards, ask these questions. This one is such a hard gray line. I think why is because it's all about that intention. If my intention is come back because I want to take more money from you, that's gonna show. So just remember, these ethics can happen anywhere. It's just not one dedicated platform. You will see this in people who are seasoned, who have been reading a long time. You will see it in newbies. There is no one size fit all. Like, there are even people who are practicing and learning that don't have bad intentions. They just don't know. They don't know the right way to do it, and that's okay. Really, it's all about trusting your gut and going for it. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a reading with somebody who is just learning. I think it helps them a ton. You're gonna have to suss it out yourself if you feel like they are doing it with bad intentions. And again, I'm not generalizing. I don't think this is the majority of psychics out there. I think it's a very small minority that gets the most attention. And I think that the majority of us that are ethical, we just need to speak up more. So if you're a psychic out there, start educating your clients, you know, speak up on these platforms if you want to. I think it's so important that we set these expectations of what psychics are and what they aren't, and what you should expect from them. You know, if the bad eggs are getting the most screen time, if they're getting the incorrect information out, they represent us as a whole. So it's very important to make sure your voice is being heard, that you educate everyone around you. You know, the phrase of like all the tides lift all the boats. I'm forgetting it. I'll put it in a text. Really, that's saying when everyone elevates their expectations of themselves as psychics, you know, everyone in the community, everyone that's receiving those readings from psychics are going to have a higher standard. And not a higher standard as if like they're going to expect more from us. I really should say a more realistic standard. And they're going to be able to help us call out those bad eggs a lot more. And even if you have made any of these mistakes, do not beat yourself up. I have made all of these mistakes, either from lack of knowledge when I was first starting out, or just like even recently, you know, doubting your own psychic ability, asking questions, you know what I mean? So like, no one's being called out, no one's under attack. And if you feel like, hey, I've got some room for improvement, I want to be ethical, I want to be seen as one of those good psychics, then please use my channel as a resource. I'm here to teach you everything that I know. I am not all knowing, but I am teaching you all the resources that I know on how to be a good, healthy, ethical psychic. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video helped you understand what to look out for, and just also some basic ethics of this industry. And if you have any questions about what is flaky and what's not, leave it down in the comments below. I'll try to get back to you all. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.